Hello all, good evening. Myself CMA Sagar Manpure, Chairman of Pimprincha Rakudi Chapter. Welcome you all for the today's CEP on the emerging issues for India to be Viksit Bharat, a $27 trillion economy. So why we have considered this today's topic? So there is a specific reason for considering this topic. The specific reason is that all of us are looking towards the Viksit Bharat in the 2047. So while reaching out to that level, of course we are going to face some critical issues and challenges as well. So to what kind of those challenges we are expecting, and how can we resolve those challenges, or how can we overcome on those challenges? So for that thing, we have today an eminent speaker, CMA Dr. Chandrasekhar Chincholkar sir. He is a management consultant and basically he is a founder and CEO of the CM Advisors LLP Pune. He has a 33 years of professional experience across corporate finance, capital markets, manufacturing and consulting. He has done the extensive work in the corporate fundraising and the manufacturing operations as well. So if we talk about the key contributions, he has been speaker at multiple conferences on hydrogen e-mobility, battery storage and the climate finance. He has empaneled as a faculty of Institute of Directors on the board strategy for the ESG and the corporate sustainability. He has also served as a CII Western Region and the National Committee on the Energy and Environment, Future Mobility and Batteries. So if I talk about the education qualification, he has done the cost of management accountant and company secretary from India and UK. He has also done the MS in finance and equivalent from the BITS Pilani and so on. So I'll welcome today Dr. CMA Dr. Chandrasekhar Chincholkar sir for the today's seminar as a speaker. And please join me by applauding for the Dr. Chandrasekhar Chincholkar sir. So welcome sir. I request CMA Amit ji to felicitate Dr. Chincholkar sir with the momentum of this moment of our chapter. So guys, can we have a round of applause for sir, because sir has taken a time from his busy schedule and today he is with us. Okay, thank you sir. So sir, all of us are waiting to hear from you on these Viksit Bharat and what challenges we are going to pose in future. So over to you. Recording has already been started.
This is not there? Over? Okay. Yeah. Either way.
Because if you see, you will come the cameras.
Okay. Sure. Because generally it is not good sitting and talking, so yeah. Arre. So, good evening everybody. Thank you Sagar for the invitation. It is good to see, I think people who are there at the back, they can come in the front. So it is important to understand how the Indian economy is actually going to shape up in the coming decades. We are talking about 2047 or 2050 as an area or a date or a year of Viksit Bharat. So by the end of 100 years of India's independence, people are talking about India being a $27 trillion economy, which is the Viksit Bharat mission. Niti Aayog has come out with some document, and my study basically relates to that document, and obviously my 33 years of corporate experience, which helps me to really look at the subject in a very different way, and how India can actually look at moving ahead with the right culture, philosophy, because beyond the level when things actually start growing up, any idea as to anyone can tell what was the size of the economy 10 years before? And what is the size of the economy now? Size of the economy 10 years before was 1.8 to $2 trillion, and the size of the economy now is almost touching $4 trillion. So when you talk about GDP, it's the value of goods and services which are actually produced, in the country. If you net that out of, if you subtract from there the imports part, then it technically becomes the GNP, which is the GDP and GNP. These two parameters which are actually, coincide with each other. So if you look at, those areas, how India has actually, prospered. If you look at the history of the world, history of how China and India actually have, moved ahead. 35, 40, 45 years before, China and India size of the economy was more or less the same. It's not the case that China has suddenly, become a. What is the size of Chinese economy? Is anybody has an idea? We are at 4. We are touching 4. We are near about 4. China is already $18 trillion. And the population is the same. In fact, recently India has overtaken China in terms of population, if you have read some of the recent reports. So we have already overtaken China in terms of population, but in terms of GDP, we are less than 25% of what China is. So, when we talk about, a GDP of per person of per capita of $2,200 or $2,500, basically it's peanuts. I mean, if you look at 30, 35, 40 years ago, China and we were at the same place. So today China is almost $12,000. It's still, I mean, if you divide $18 trillion by 140 crore, it will be something like, 14 threes are 42. So it will be almost $13,000 on a per capita basis. So they are at $13,000, we are not even $2,500. So we are actually, if you look at, we've grown very well in the last 10 years, the direction is very positive. But obviously, if you look at in terms of the real size, and what drives that, what is driven in China in a very big way is the innovation part. What is driving their economy is the innovation part. The ability to do something which is world class. And I think that is something which is significantly missing in India, even today, because we have large pharma plants, but we have nothing. For that matter, a company which has now recently looked at putting up a semiconductor plant in India, Foxconn. Foxconn CEO, you probably might have seen some photos. He went and met, Prime Minister Modi. So Foxconn is one of the largest chip manufacturing semiconductor company out of Taiwan, and they are one of the largest globally. So when he meets, and again you can imagine, they have one large facility in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and they have one very large facility in China. So can anybody tell me what is the, how many people work in that facility? Has anybody read one single facility of Foxconn? Any guesses? Just anybody can take any guess and tell me the number. How many people work? Like we say, Reliance has 2.5 lakh employees, or whatever. I mean, as a group, Tata Group might have whatever 4 lakh, 5 lakh employees. But this is spread across India, across the world, right? So they have operations in TCS has operations in US, Europe. China, one facility of Foxconn, it's a city. Practically, it's a city. One facility, people don't even go out of the city because they don't need to. The Foxconn has provided them with everything, entertainment, food, or everything world class. One facility, one city, 10 lakh people work. So you can imagine the gigantic level of operations of Foxconn in China as compared to what is there in India. Their probably turnover is a few $1 billion. So it's not something which is, you know, to boost off from Indian perspective that the CEO has come and made Prime Minister, but you look at the kind of operations they are doing. And they ultimately want to move out of China, and that's why they are probably looking at second base in terms of manufacturing in India to help. And their facility in Chennai, obviously one of the largest mobile manufacturing facilities in India. So if you have read recent reports saying that India has become a very large exporter of mobiles, it actually majorly comes from Tamil Nadu. It comes from few facilities of Foxconn, and that is how you would have probably seen Ashwini Vaishnaw, who's the IT minister, talking about few $1 billion of turnover coming out of export of mobile phones. To large extent, it is still sort of a designing and assembly facility, but it is still not hardcore large-scale manufacturing, including chips, because mobile is all about chips, right? Laptops is all about chips. So this is the real emerging scenario from an India perspective, how we should really look at things. If you look at the demography of India, I mean, we are at 140 crore population, equal to 78 Western countries. So you can imagine how culturally, those 78 countries are so culturally diverse. They have different languages. So we have 28 states and 8 union territories and 23 official languages, and there are so many 400 plus unofficial languages. So you can imagine how difficult it is, and you can imagine the unification of all these languages in terms of technology, how technology can actually help, that one source of information maybe can, decode it into 23 official languages and it reaching 140 crore people at one go, or maybe reaching 100 crore people. We don't know, because what is the penetration of these languages from a mobile perspective or whatever. Are you aware what is the mobile population in the country today? 110 to 115 crores. Now imagine 6, 7, 8 years before, Reliance Jio they were making losses, and management company actually incurred 25,000 crore loss to come out with one very low cost technology so that they can serve the people and make people habituated to Jio. Today they control 45 to 47, 50% of the market share. They have currently 50 crore mobile users out of 110 crore, 115 crore. So if you take 120 crores, 50 crores will be roughly 41, 42%, or if you take 115 crores, it will be something like 45%. So look at the kind of things that are actually helping India to change. And then we are much diverse than all the European nations. European nations are more or less, people speak German language, people speak French language, people speak Spanish language. So there are 3-4 major languages which are common in Europe. It's not the case that if you are not knowing anything, you will, even some country like Netherlands, probably if I recall correctly, they also speak Spanish as one of their languages. So there is no issue in terms of commonality of language and communication, because growth will only happen when you are able to communicate properly, right? Communication is the most important scenario as far as, and that is why I would request all of you, that you should probably download Modi app and really look at I get every day I get an update from him. Obviously it is coming from the IT team, but I get an update what has happened today. And it doesn't cost you anything, right? My bill, despite the fact that I am doing consulting and talking to so many customers all throughout India on a very regular basis, my mobile bill doesn't go beyond 525 rupees today on a monthly basis. So it has become so cheap. In normal course, when I used to work in Bombay, 94, 95, first time the internet came, right? Those time mobile phones were what? 18, 20 rupees unit per call, right? And BPL was the first company which launched in Mumbai, and Mumbai was the first circle which actually launched mobile. And then that time internet was so scarce that what is happening? We are lucky that we have a Prime Minister who prefers to talk in Hindi in most of the international, except for the recent AI/ML conference. So yeah, thank you. So we are basically, as we are discussing, so much of diverse in terms of as compared to 28 European countries and 24 languages. So again, equality of opportunities is something which is defined in the constitution. And there are so many parameters in constitution which are defined, and say it talks about issues like water, use of water as a first, who has a maximum rights toward use of water. So obviously, if you look at, it says, Article 21 very clearly says it has actually come through a case law. It says that, usage of water has to be, first preference has to be given to farmers. Second is residents, third is industry. So industrial usage is very, very low today, not very high. But if tomorrow there are issues in terms of usage of water for farmers, then obviously the first thing that will be government will have to end up cutting probably is in industry, right? Because you can't cut water for residents. So one has to look at how things will actually move from a Viksit Bharat perspective. So if you look at 1952, the first, even I was not even born that time. So 1952 was the first intra-country river connecting project which was actually launched. But that project actually never took off because probably, what was the reason I don't know, but I think Mr. Modi currently is working on, trying to connect all the major rivers in the country. If that happens, then at least, so much of water is, India has so much of rainfall, but obviously that rainfall doesn't get captured and there is no storage, right? Storage is a big problem. The water all goes to sea. Once it goes to sea, it all gets salinated, so that it is of no use. You again need to use desalination. A city like Madras has put hundreds of crores putting up a desalination plant. Despite that, they don't have water. So these are all challenges. Then, as far as equality is concerned, we are socially, less equal as compared to, the difference between parity between income parity between, people at the lower class. When we talk about $2,500 per capita, it is average for whole of India, right? And today, if you look at the real statistics, 1% of India actually controls 65% of India's wealth. So 1% population is only 1.4 crore people, right? How many income tax returns were filed last year? Any idea? 8 crores. So earlier it used to be 3.5, but with this advent of capital markets, people wanted to invest. So more demat accounts are opened. So if they were compelled to register and then file returns, maybe even if you have 1 lakh rupee annual income from capital market, you need to pay tax, capital gains tax. So all that has made around 8 crore subscribers. But what is the working population for India? Working population is almost 60 crores. So as compared to 60 crore working population, 12-13% income tax payer is very low, right? That obviously includes some amount of farmers also, but the numbers needs to increase, right? At least there is a very clear thought process from most of the professionals that India should have a tax system where at least the rich farmers are taxed. People who are at least earning more than 10 lakh rupees, those should be taxed. Otherwise, GDP contribution, if you look at the breakup of GDP today, 55% of the breakup actually comes from manufactured services, 29% comes from manufacturing, 15% comes from agriculture, and 1% comes from various other sectors. So if you look at 15% of $4 trillion, so $4 trillion is, if you take 85 as a rate today, $4 trillion will be like 3 crore 40 lakh crores. So that is the amount which, probably counting zeros will also be difficult. So if you take 15% of that, it is almost 50-55 lakh crores is what is the agriculture economy today in India. So looking at all that, the 2,500 rupees is something which looks okay, it's a good number. But in money terms, it is only 17,000 rupees per month, right? And in terms of global average, China is at $13,000-14,000, US is $60,000 plus. Imagine $30 trillion economy US and population of 35-37 crores. So you divide that, it's obviously in the range of $65,000 to $70,000 per annum as the average per capita. So $70,000 basically at 85 rupees is 60 lakh rupees is the average. Where is 2 lakh rupees and where is 60 lakh rupees? So you can imagine what can India achieve from a Viksit Bharat perspective? I am just giving you a perspective. 140 crore population, can we reach a level of $10,000 or $12,000, which will be 10 lakh rupees? 10 lakh rupees is 5 times current 2 lakh rupees. So the size of economy, when in terms of the numbers, can actually be seriously by 2027 5 times more. So 4 can actually become 20. 4 trillion can actually become 20 trillion. Or if the number goes beyond that on a per capita basis, the number can be $27 trillion, which is actually what the government has envisaged for. And then people talk about gender parity. Gender parity, they say, can help improve upon GDP by 1.5%. And if there are more women employed, what is the current GDP growth declared this year? Any idea? No, this year is going to be, last year was 7.8, this year is going to be 6.4. So if they are saying, what does this particular statement says, that if more women work, probably more saving happen or more money goes to the family and it is then spent, and then in terms of the numbers also, working women are less today. So more women work, it can add anything between 16% to 27% of GDP. So your 16% of that is another 1%, or 27% of that will actually be whatever, 2%. So it can be anything between 1 to 2% addition to GDP can actually happen from working, more women working in the corporate sector or in the working class. My own report is there with Niti Aayog, where I have made a report saying that how India can become a 10% GDP economy, assuming 7% as the base GDP rate, growth rate, and how 3% can actually be contributed by agriculture. So this is my report to Niti Aayog. The report has been presented to Dr. Saraswat at Niti Aayog, and it has been very well appreciated. And 3% can actually come if we are able to do proper management of water. We are aware about a country like Israel, where there is no water, but still the per acre output is so significantly high. You'll probably find their brinjals as big as you would have probably seen in the photos somewhere. Their mangoes are as large as this. Why? They they've developed significantly, and we have so much of water. We have good soil quality. We are trying to move away from chemical fertilizers to organic fertilizers in the coming days. Government has actually made it compulsory for all the fertilizer companies that 20% of whatever they sell will actually be organic in nature. So they have made it compulsory for the companies to, fertilizer companies to, they have to compulsorily source it from somewhere, ensure that the product is good, it is sellable, and after that it actually goes to the market. So these are the broad facts in terms of how things are actually looking to India. Emerging scenario, if you look at higher education and job skills at the highest level is a requirement. Promotion of STEM. What is missing in India? Science, technology, engineering and mathematics. This particular learning to the deepest level is something which is missing in India. Now if you look at the current R&D spend as a percentage of GDP, is anybody aware what is the R&D spend as a percentage of GDP? No, it is 0.6 to 0.7%. Korea is 2.5%, Japan is 5%, China is more obviously spending significant amount of money on R&D. That is why with same population like ours, they are at 4.5 times GDP. So why Indians are not spending on R&D? Because there is no culture. We students go to engineering colleges, but they only learn in labs. There is no practical. The industry, institution, academia, collaboration is something that is significantly missing today in the country. I get associated, I have done few programs recently. I have done a program, 2-day program on hydrogen, green hydrogen with Symbiosis Institute of Technology. And tomorrow again, I will be going there because they have invited Dr. Sudhir Mehta, and I am also one of the invitees to his lecture. So 2.5% or 5% is the right kind of spend. So when you can imagine at 3.5 lakh crore, 3.5 crore, 0.6% is hardly 2 lakh crores. We are not spending that. We should actually be spending 20 lakh crores on R&D. That is almost 5% of or 6% of $4 trillion. So that is the kind of money that should actually go into R&D. Why it is not happening? Because Indian corporates, except for few who have spent some money on the pharma side or engineering side, or for that matter, we must appreciate a company like Reliance. They spent so much of money to come out with geo technology to make it low cost and incurred losses to offer it at such a low cost, and that has become a now profitable model. Reliance is spending another $500 million to come out with hydrogen internal combustion engine. The technology is already demonstrated in Goa at the World International Energy Week scenario summit last year, and now they are working to ensure that hydrogen can be used in internal combustion engine, so that existing internal combustion engine needs to be modified a bit. It need not be 100% replaced, and then it can. Yeah, yesterday even Tata Motors has started. So you must appreciate companies like Reliance and Tata Motors because they have spent money to come out with the technology. Yeah, so all these buses will be running, so hydrogen can be used. So there are, as far as I know, Reliance is doing trials along with PESO. PESO is the organization which actually is the regulator for all the hydrocarbon and hydrogen and oil and gas related areas. So PESO headquartered in Nagpur, they are doing some trials with Reliance. They established a first of its kind hydrogen dispensing station in Jamnagar, whereby a few trucks and buses are filled every day, and those are actually doing trials. So that you are able to maybe run it every day for 200-300 kilometers and see the mileage, how things happen, what is the data points collected. Those data points could be useful. So India needs to pay significantly higher amount of money. Indian promoters, except for MNCs who are there in India, MNCs spend a lot of money on R&D, but do they spend it in India? They don't spend it in India. It all happens in their headquarters. And whatever technology is developed there, it basically comes to India and it gets commercialized. So R&D per se, that mindset of R&D, I have been to Germany many times. I have been to a company called Muller in Germany, which is 2 hours drive from Munich. And I have seen students working in the laboratory with screw and pechkas, and they will ensure that they are able to do something, find out new things, do some different application. Unless you are willing to spend that kind of time, And in Germany, you can do your classes for 4 days. You can practically be 2 days in a week. You can actually be working in a company, and that helps in terms of your learning also. So it's very important parameter. So STEM is something which is so important for India. And then obviously, emerging scenario is more competitive market, because one is, today the labor cost in India is relatively lower. But if you look at Europe, what is the average salary of a labor in Europe? I don't think it is less than 2,500 euro average. 2,500 euro is almost 2 lakh rupees a month. Right? Here our average GDP is, per capita income is 2 lakh rupees, and they are earning 2 lakh rupees in a month. And that is why if you see European and the American, the goods are very costly. Why? Because they have trained manpower. They spend money on R&D. So if they spend money on R&D, the money needs to be recovered, right? Money needs to be recovered in 3, 4, 5 years. Business cannot run like charity. Money has to be recovered in 3, 4, 5 years. So that is the thing. And then competitive market scenario needs to emerge. Most important is adverse effect of asymmetry of information. Today, today at least we are fortunate that mobile has penetrated to a significant level, but still the penetration is still missing. If you look at the mobile, GPay or mobile or internet-based transactions in India, they have reached something like 40 billion or 50 billion transactions on an annual basis. It's a significant number, but obviously still we have a population which is 140. So you can imagine the scope that is there, and people are very happy. Despite all this. Despite the fact that we are lacking, foreigners are very happy, because when they come to India and see, I went for a meeting in Kondwa last week, and I had to park my car. So even 10 rupee was taken through a GPay. So it's not the case that the even car parking slot operator, who basically takes the space on lease from respective corporations or Nagarpalika, even he has a GPay system, so everything can be tracked. All of us are aware basically of a Pani Puri wala in Chennai receiving a GST notice, right? That message was actually going around. How this is possible? Because all money came to his account and his turnover crossed 40 lakh rupees and he got a GST notice, right? So you can imagine the kind of okay. So asymmetry of information is something that needs to be really, corrected in a big way. It is happening slowly. Access to public, public goods of equal quality. We have been seeing influx of large Chinese goods in the past, but that has now, to a certain extent, government has stopped. Including if you look at some of the recent policies in the last 2 years, they said very clearly that as far as defense area is concerned, they will not allow any Chinese goods because they might have chips inside which can actually have the pirated information, and then it basically all the information from India is actually going to China, and they are aware about And if you look at the last G20 summit which was going to happen in Delhi, I was fortunate to be speaking at 3 occasions on G20. So one session in Pune, one session in Sikkim, and third in Delhi. So I was invited to speak at 3 sessions at G20. So when the Chinese team actually landed here in India for the G20 session, and all their equipments were checked, it was found that all the equipments have a recording system in place, so that, and the team was not allowed to attend the conference. So India is also getting smarter that way, and hope things will actually become better. In terms of public health, when you look at Viksit Bharat scenario, we are doing much better, and we should be really thankful that we did not take Pfizer medicine, Pfizer corona vaccine. We should be thankful to government that we had Serum Institute and the Bharat Biotech vaccine, which was available and made available at such a short notice of maybe 6 months, 8 months, or whatever period. And we did not take Pfizer because Pfizer, again, the CEO himself did not take the medicine, his own vaccine, and he was caught in some of the other bribery cases and all, and there were issues for that particular matter. Third most important, another most important area is high quality of drinking water. That is something which things are becoming better, but obviously needs to be perfected. I mean, I stay at, say, Blue Ridge Township, which is Paranjpe Township. Things were very good because the society got constructed in 1213, and now it is almost 10 years over. So with passage of time, things have started having some or the other problems. So we need to have issues resolved in terms of better quality of water, testing very regularly, and how municipal water will come and how sustainability of water is there. Third most important parameter is that what is the per capita consumption availability of water in 1952. In 1952, the per capita availability was water on a per day basis was 500 liters. Today it is not even not even 150 liters, especially in cities. Cities, why? Because the system is reasonably well managed, right? If there are 4 or 5 people, I think it's very easy that each person consumes 30-40 liters on a daily basis, right? Your bucket full of water for bath will be at least easily 8 to 10 liters. Then if you're taking bath, using shower, then you don't know how much of money you are actually wasting, right? So 30-40 liters on a family of 4 people, 150 liters is something which is reasonably well available. Bombay, Pune, all the Delhi surrounding areas get it. Other cities are not to that extent. Villages are very poor, despite the fact that villages actually need more water because they need to do agriculture, right? But on a per capita basis, the actual availability of water in villages is only 50 liters on a per day basis. Now you can imagine, I do a lot of teaching and lecturing on sustainability and energy transition as a subject. I am faculty with Institute of Directors, ICSI, ICMAI, then FICCI-FLOW, CII, ASHRAE, ISHRAE, all the 7 institutions I am faculty on very important topics like this. And energy transition, if you look at what is the per capita energy consumption today, we are enjoying the power, right? Per capita energy consumption today in India is only 1200 units. US, with 1/4 of India's population, 1/4, their population is around 35 crores. They consume 12,000 units on a per capita basis. So you can imagine the energy requirements of India when it actually becomes a developed nation, right? So Viksit Bharat, 1200 units now to maybe at least 5,000, 7,000, 8,000 units. Japan has 8,000 units. Other countries like Brazil, South Africa have something like 5 to 7,000, 8,000 units on a per capita basis. So imagine a scenario. Europe probably, you would have seen Europe. Many of you must have traveled also to Europe. It is so widespread. Everywhere you see lights everywhere. You go to Singapore, the whole city is, illuminated all throughout the day. I mean, the numbers would be as high as US, maybe more. Maybe their the per capita unit consumption is 15,000 units. I have not checked. But if you take US, which is also again very widespread, right? They are at 12,000 units, and then their per capita income is so high, so they can afford it. And at some point of time in California, the unit prices were as high as 24, 25 rupees per unit. Now with the renewable coming into picture and more plants getting depreciated and all, the costs have come down. Today, I think the pricing is in the range of 12 to 15 rupees per unit. India also, you go to Chakan, the basic price of electricity is 8 rupees. Plus taxes, it will be 10.5 to 11 rupees. You go to commercial and, commercial like malls, hotels, the pricing is 14, 15 rupees. Similar is the pricing for private universities. So there is a significant area of improvement in terms of electricity costs coming down for even private institutions. So, this is very important scenario. So clean air and pollution free environment is another very important parameter of Viksit Bharat. Social security, we are lucky that government has introduced the insurance scheme where up to health insurance up to 5 lakhs is covered. There are few states like West Bengal and all who never wanted to implement that particular scheme, even Delhi also. And I think with the recent BJP winning the Delhi elections, Mrs. Rekha Gupta, who is the CM, she has actually implemented the health insurance scheme for for all the Delhiites. So they will now get the benefit of health cover, insurance cover to the extent of 5 lakh rupees on a per person basis. So obviously with with more GDP growth, emergence of high income population is something that is happening, and in certain cases, as you would have seen, I am already talking to people, and some of their children are overseas who are doing graduation. They have done here and they have gone to US. They are facing today problems in terms of even internship getting through. People who have been interviewed yesterday only, I was talking to somebody who is at a very senior level at IIT Kanpur. His son is doing MS in the US, so in robotics. And when he wanted to go for his internship for 6 months, he after 4 interviews, when he was thinking that it's all done, they rejected him, and next day again they gave the advertisement. So people are also already facing the heat of Trump administration in terms of he wanting more locals to be employed rather than foreigners to be employed. So for the sake of saying we are living in a global village, but now scenario emerging is that everybody wants to protect his own jobs, right? Everybody wants to protect his own products. So they're looking, and that's why he's looking at, every day you must be hearing in the news that, today this industry, so much of tariff will be imposed, that industry, so much of tariff will be imposed. Canada 25% tariff, Brazil 25% tariff. So India negotiations are on. So, these kind of things will keep happening now till the time it, probably settles down in the next few months. European side, India, Europe also, again, there is a concept called as carbon border adjustment mechanism, which is basically, I am a faculty on CBAM also. I teach to a lot of software companies in terms of their CBAM, how they should go about it. I am also in touch with a lot of manufacturing companies on the European side who require, Europe is basically has come out with a program called CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, whereby from 1st April 2026, 1st January 2026, tax will be applicable on the amount of embedded carbon in the products and services. Especially products, in terms of products, they have iron and steel, they have aluminium, they have fertilizer, they have some amount of electricity, hydrogen, all these 5-6 areas, sectors they have said where they will be actually charging tax. And each border is going to charge tax. Huh? It's not the case that only one time you have to pay the tax. The moment you pass from, say you go to Netherlands and you land at Netherlands, you cross, your goods actually travel from one place to another place. Every border, because I have traveled extensively in Europe, I have traveled 8 or 9 countries in Europe. When you go as a tourist, there are no taxes. They don't even ask you for passport. They will not even see your passport. But now when your goods actually start traveling from one state to another state, they will actually start putting up tax. And there are talks going on which says that institute, products like steel and all, the taxes could be as high as 8 or 9 or 10%. So whatever margin you have, steel industry doesn't have that large margin. So they are going to get significantly impacted in terms of, but they'll have to ensure that they have a proper decarbonization program so that they can reduce their carbon emissions and ultimately prove it that, okay, we are competent and we will be supplying it to you. From 2026 till 2034 is the 8-year transition period. In that 8-year transition period, you have to, I think the number of products which will be covered under CBAM will go from 60 to easily 50. And they will all cover food products also in the coming days. So a lot of food industry which is there in Pune, I am in touch with few companies. They are actually very well gearing up for how they can reduce their carbon emissions, show more programs towards renewable energy, social side, all those areas, and at least get some credits in terms of how things can actually become better. So in terms of working population, you see there are other countries like China is having significant decrease in working population. Europe has significant decrease in working population. And that's why, if you've seen some of the statements from Prime Minister Modi, he says very clearly that India can actually become the support function for supply of labor, intelligent labor. It's not a case that, there was a recent advertisement in Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a very precious small country in Europe and very rich country actually on a per capita basis. Average income is more than, I think 1.5. It is the richest country actually in the world. So if you take US as $60,000, $65,000, I think Luxembourg would be something like $2 lakh on a per capita basis. So they have advertised for, undergraduates or field workers who will be paid $5,000 salary to work in the farms there. So anybody going, who has reasonable agriculture knowledge here in India may not be qualified, but at least has reasonable good knowledge about agriculture practices, can actually go to Luxembourg and get paid $6,000. And he will also, $6,000 is what amount of money? 5 lakh rupees a month, right? So it's a big amount. They are willing to pay that because they don't have labor, they don't have people. So Europe is very widespread in terms of size. Geography wise, Europe is very large. It is larger than US also, because there are 28 countries as we have seen, and that is why the working population in all these countries is aging. We have a very, very clear distinct advantage. US average population age is today 40. We are at 28 or 29. So we have a 12, 13, 15 years of clear 15 years of benefit in terms of working population. So 15, you can imagine out of 60 crore working population, even if 25 crore people consistently put in significantly higher amount of effort for that 15 years, how much it can benefit the GDP. That's the number we should look at, because everybody will not contribute to global reach or whatever. Some people will contribute in a small way. But say the number of people out of 8 crore who have filed income tax return, the number of people who are more than a crore, if you look at some of the recent surveys, have increased highest in India. There was more than, I think, something like 10 lakh people have filed returns which are on a per family basis or per person basis is more than a crore rupee. So if these people keep contributing, because as we discussed in the earlier part, 1% of the population actually controls 65% of India's wealth. So you can imagine if these people keep contributing and the stock market also goes up. Now when you talk about, so China is likely to see a drop of 7.8% or, on the working population basis. So 8% is significant number. If you are registered on few sites, global sites, you will keep getting, I keep getting so many reports. Suddenly people from China's factories are vanishing because, people have aged. They don't want to work. And, China is not so open and democratic. It's a very controlled economy. So people, you really don't know what is actually happening in the economy. Government gives a lot of subsidy. They'll say, okay, your product is accepted in the US. What price you want to sell? You want to sell it at $100. Your price may be $120 or $125. We'll give you $25 as subsidy. But that subsidy is not disclosed. When you do a trade pact between the countries, what is the most important part? You should disclose what is the subsidy. Otherwise, so I can always say ki my product is worth, my product I'll give you for $50, and then from behind I'm getting subsidy from the government. So am I making, I'm in terms of trade, I'm actually making a loss, but I'm profitable only because I'm getting the subsidy from the government. So these are issues and challenges in terms of trade wars, which keep happening. India and Europe, if you see in some of the recent news items, they are negotiating and they've said that we'll finalize by December. Why December? Because 1st January 2026 is the tax. CBAM tax is going to be applicable. An institution and organization like Tata Motors is filing CBAM returns to Europe from 1st October 2023. You can imagine they are filing data of what is the carbon emissions in their products from 1st October 2023. They're already doing it. We are here sitting in a, I came in the evening, so when I came from the, Dandekar Bridge, right? Dandekar Bridge. Once you drop down from Dandekar Bridge, the first company you see on the left is Tata Motors. So they have already started declaring these kind of numbers. Currently there is no tax. But the purpose why they have asked you to file, because they want to see what are your emissions. They want to see your data. I have recently completed a ESG implementation study for one of the 500 crore auto components company, and it's a Chinese company which is 100% subsidiary of a listed company in Shanghai. So I know what are the kind of problems they are facing. They supply their products to everybody except Maruti. So I know exactly what is happening in Toyota. I know exactly what is happening in Mahindra. I know what is exactly happening in Tata Motors in terms of ESG as an implementation. So this is going to be another big challenge for And then when we talk about aging population, when we talk about new skill development, understanding of ESG as a concept is again going to be a very challenging area for companies in the coming days. We don't have people. HR head becomes ESG head, quality head becomes ESG head. Where is the person? ESG is a management function. It is not a plant function. Typically what is happening in companies when I talk to people, HSE head, health, safety and environment head has been given the responsibility of ESG. But ESG is a management function. He is supposed to be handling the risk. What are the risks associated in business? So ESG head or sustainability head is also supposed to address concerns of companies on the risk side. And that is why today in some of the companies, CRO, Chief Risk Officer appointment has become compulsory. So ESG is very important function. CRO is also becoming an important function. Another important parameter is that currently our labor costs are low, but obviously labor costs are increasing, right? So we need to be very careful what will happen as a scenario in 15 years. So only thing that can help us to really remain at the top or go to the top is that the skill levels have to improve, right? If the skill levels improve, then only your per capita income will actually increase, and that will help in terms of the GDP. So that is one important parameter. R&D as a center, if you probably see GCCs, global, capability centers, is something that is greatly building up in India. That's why, if you see 2 days before statement by Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, he's actually taken names in a conference in Mumbai, addressing companies like TCS, Infosys, Wipro. He's taken names of these companies and said, where are your products? Services, so today you have 1,000 people, tomorrow you'll have 1,500 people. Your services business will increase. You will keep earning more dollars. But where is the product? Is there any single software product available from India? After the industry becoming 5 lakh, 6 lakh crores, 80, 85, 90 billion dollars also, we don't have a software products which can be said that, okay, the product is scalable and it can, compete with Microsoft. Bill Gates is a Harvard dropout. You can imagine whatever he learnt in the first 1 or 2 years of Harvard, he was so intelligent that he could code everything and create a product which can become world class. And here we have BTech, MTech, PhD people. They are not able to do the right kind of coding. People say, and I have experienced this, that Russian people who work in Middle East and all, without having knowledge of English, they are able to code so well that they are far, far superior to Indian coders. So somewhere in terms of education, our knowledge is, and that's why that industry and academia connect is something which is significantly missing today. And that's what government is actually pushing for. Why government is giving so many PLI schemes? alternate cell chemistry PLI scheme, auto components PLI scheme, auto OEM PLI scheme, solar PLI scheme, semiconductor PLI scheme, textile PLI scheme, pharma PLI scheme. Government has given 2 lakh crore as incentives. But when you compare that with US in terms of new energy and new mobility has given incentives of $370 billion. So divide that by 35 crore and divide 2 lakh crores by 140 crore population. What is per capita incentive, PLI scheme incentive? It's peanuts. In my all deliberations at the central government level, when I used to be working in my previous company, it's a multinational company, I was a director in the India office. I have consistently told the government very clearly the incentive levels in India need to be at least 20 lakh crores. 2 lakh crore incentives will not help. Why will people take risk? Okay, you want to do business? Okay, some amount of risk you should take. But government should also incentivize, because the biggest benefit to the government is obviously going to be collection of taxes, right? I have worked upon a financial model for battery swapping, and when I presented to the government, I said, all bigger cities, 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers, why don't you look at battery swapping as a model? You give 25,000 crore incentive. When I rework the model and say, okay, two-wheeler will require 2 kilowatt hour battery, you know, a 3-wheeler will require a 3.5-4 kilowatt hour battery. If they change the battery once in a day because it is running 40-50 kilometers, the recovery of 25,000 crores of GST benefit will actually happen in 4 years. So is 25% not a good IRR for the government? If you are recovering your money in 4 years, it's a brilliant IRR. Any business today doesn't have IRR of 25%, right? So these are the kind of, I've been suggesting to government that you should have incentives which are at least 20 lakh crores, not 2 lakh crores. And that is the amount of money that needs to come from the government. Our direct tax collection today is, anybody aware of the figure? Both corporate and individual. What is the direct tax collection figure? We discussed that in the inventory valuation seminar the other day, right? If I am correct. Mr. Chandrasekhar Advatkar was mentioning about that particular figure. Our direct tax collection today is 19.5 lakh crores, roughly. 50% of that comes from corporate, 50% of that comes from individuals. And what Mr. Advatkar said that day, very clearly, that government has a feeling that the leakage of tax is exactly 100% of what is being paid today. So it's another 20 lakh crores of taxes that is getting missed out because of this is government estimation, right, wrong, I do not know, I have no expertise to really check on that. Then you know, China's aged population will increase to 84% by 2050 and India will be having 38%. So you see the demographic advantage in terms of aging population. So we still will have 40-50% of the people who are still not aged and they can put in 8-10 years of good work. So that is the kind of benefit that will come to us in the next so many years. And then India will also emerge because people are looking at China plus one strategy in terms of chemicals, pharma. So India will also become one of the largest manufacturers of pharma products globally. And that is where there is significant amount of opportunities even from a CMA perspective. They are going to be brilliant opportunities because all cost audits, cost management, all these parameters will actually come. And you know, and in terms of the hybrid health service providing, whether it is physical service or whether it is an online service. Online health services market is going to be one of the largest markets in India. That's what you know, we've been discussing in various forums and all. So that is going to be the important parameter. Now let us look at from what Prime Minister Modi declared at COP26. Okay, so at COP26, which was held at Glasgow in USA, in UK, India represented the following you know, nectar elements. They call it Panchamrut. So the Panchamrut strategy was declared by the Prime Minister. From the climate point of view, how much is the government budget today for social areas? Anybody has an idea? As accountants, as management accountants, these numbers you should have. Read the budget, make your points, keep it ready for the next 1 year. You have to read it only once a year, right? You don't have to read it many times because budget once announced doesn't change. 1 or 2 notifications, you know, just get deleted or whatever, but things doesn't change. So I think this year's figure is going to be something like 44 lakh crores in terms of collection of taxes. That's what they have said. If you are at 1.7 or 1.8 lakh crores in terms of GDP, right, you are almost getting 21, 22 lakh crores in terms of GST collection, right, and then another 20 lakh crores coming from direct taxes. So at 42 lakh crores or 41 lakh crores, you add 7% GDP growth, your number is 44 lakhs, right? So that's the kind of number you should be able to correlate in your mind when you actually go and meet people in conferences that, okay, what is the scenario? What is something that is going to happen? So we are talking currently in terms of renewable energy at 500 gigawatt. So 1 gigawatt is how many megawatts? You see all my presentations, you will never find any photographs and graphs. I'll only talk numbers because numbers make sense in life. Graphs doesn't make any sense in life. People make such flowery, अरे क्या बढ़िया ग्राफ बनाया, अरे ग्राफ से क्या होता है, ग्राफ तो नंबर से आया ना भैया. आपका स्ट्रेट लाइन तभी बनेगा ना जब नंबर है तो. I only talk about numbers. So we're talking about 500 gigawatt. Current renewable capacity in India is already 208 or 209 gigawatt. So we have 300 gigawatt to be installed or implemented in the next 5 to 6 years. So 300 gigawatt at an average 4 crore or 4.5 crore or maybe 3.75 crores, because as we increase in terms of the capacities, the cost should actually come down. So even if you take average, it is almost 12 lakh or 14 lakhs or 15 lakh crores worth of investment. 30% of that has to come in the form of equity, 70% has to be debt. So if you look at only renewable energy capacity, and then to support that you will require battery energy storage, because today the power generation happens because of majorly thermal, right? Even today 60% of India's thermal power, power generation is coming from coal. Balance is today coming from renewable and other sources. Nuclear is very small. France has 80% of its power generation happening from nuclear energy. So you can imagine what can happen in a country like India, and that's why government is actually seriously thinking about tweaking Nuclear Energy Act. Why? Because how will you invite private sector to come into it? If the act, if there is no openness, why will people come forward? Why France is so ahead in terms of France and Canada, two bigger countries in the world which are having significant amount of nuclear power? Because Alstom is there. Alstom is a company which has been the pioneer in terms of nuclear energy globally, and they originate from France, and that is where they are able to really ensure that right kind of technology and everything is actually put across. So the target is and then government is saying 50% of the energy should come from renewable. That means in 2030 the power requirement will be almost 1000 gigawatt. 1000 gigawatt ka 50% is 500. So 500 ka they are saying so 500 will be 50% of 1000 gigawatt. So my reading is that for an average 7 to 8% GDP growth, the power requirement is elasticity is almost 1.5 times. You will actually require 12% incremental power every year. So if you take current number of 450 gigawatts, multiply that by 12% per annum. What you will calculate, what will be your number? It will not be less than 1200 gigawatt. So 1200 gigawatt should be the actual requirement. You could take 50% of that. So your real requirement of renewable power is going to be 600. So there is 400 gigawatts multiplied by 4 crores. 16, 17, 18 lakh crores is going to be the investment only in renewable assets. This is only from the point of view of solar. Huh? Wind power is much more costlier. Wind is not less than 6 crore per megawatt today. Battery storage prices have come down, so that is. And then government is talking about reduction of total projected carbon emissions by 1 billion tons. So whatever are the carbon emissions, that will have reduced by 1 billion tons. So today the global emissions are, anybody has an idea what are the global emissions? Global emissions today are 37 gigatons. Out of which China is 30%, US is 13%, Europe is more or less similar, and India is at 7%. So 7% of 37 trillion, 37 gigatons is the kind of emissions India has today. So it will be roughly in the range of 2.25 gigatons of emissions. So if we divide that by 140 crore population on a per capita basis, it is peanuts. China is at 30% of 37, that is 11 gigatons of emissions. Again, the population is same. So they are at 11, we are at 2.25. So they are at 5 times larger than us in terms of per capita emissions. That's why they need to continuously do innovations to implement renewable energy, battery storage, hydrogen. There are already 5,000 hydrogen buses running in China. We have just started with few experiments and few 10-15 buses running. China is already running 5,000 buses, hydrogen buses. And then we are talking about carbon intensity, reduction of carbon intensity by 45%. This carbon intensity reduction by 45% will actually lead to significant emergence of carbon markets. I was part of a team we presented to Dr. Hardik Shah at PMO in terms of why India needs carbon market. Indian carbon markets actually closed in 2011-12. Market was actually running very well at multi-commodity exchange. But because of global crash of CER prices, they actually closed down. Now again, government wants to make it official. Europe has a very large emission trading system, whereby every 1 ton emission of carbon gives you anything between 40 euro to 80 or 100 euro. That is the kind of money. If you are saving that, then you will earn that much of money. So somebody who doesn't save, he wants to buy from you, he will buy it on the exchange. So there is business in terms of exchange. That's why carbon exchange is getting created. I was part of the team which actually presented to government both at the PMO level, also at the Niti Aayog level, as to why India needs carbon market. The guidelines act has been formulated. Guidelines are under formulation now in terms of if it is a renewable asset, what will be the formula to calculate that saving. If it is, then government is also talking about green credit. Green credit is something where I can do plantation, and green credits will be given to me depending on the amount of carbon that is sequestrated. Photosynthesis, all of us have studied in the school, right? When the plant grows, the highest amount of sequestration happens from carbon, CO2. And my vision document on bamboo industry, Vision 2030, has been accepted by Niti Aayog. They actually appreciated the document well. And on that basis, they actually formed a policy with Agriculture Ministry for approval. So I have last week I presented a vision document bamboo industry at Mumbai University, also at IIT Mumbai, in terms of how India is actually missing out on 5 to 7 lakh crore economy in bamboo. Today we are not even 25,000 crores. So we have so many gems in the country, but we don't know how to exploit them, right? So this is a real challenge in terms of how things should actually move. And if most of you would probably know or not know, the nakshatra in India, India's astrological system, there are 27 nakshatras. If anybody has studied, each nakshatra has a plant attached to it. Because the world is a perfect science, right? Nobody can deny that world is a perfect science. And the nakshatra in which Lord Rama was born is Punarvasu nakshatra. And the tree attached to Punarvasu nakshatra is bamboo. So if you see 2017-18, till that time, bamboo was a plant under Forest Act. Forest Act is 1927. So you can imagine the lethargy of the system, that something which is actually a grass was a plant under Forest Act, and you can't go to forest and actually cut the plant. So we have missed out on this kind of magic. This is magic, because tensile strength of bamboo is 1.8 times that of steel. It is a much harder and tougher material than steel. People don't want to be. There are experiments going on where they started using, instead of that chhajja, or instead of that, when you actually put up the slab, you use steel rods, right? Crisscross. People have started using bamboo for roof. So these are the kind of gems we are missing on. And then when you talk about carbon intensity, I was just working out the numbers. Even if we are able to say do 1 billion ton emission reduction by 2030, 2%, and then we do like stock market. We have a broking community which has spread across the country. There are 4-5 thousand brokers who operate. Even if we are able to go ahead and create a carbon market, anybody who's running a carbon broking company and having 2% share of the carbon market trades that will happen in the country, assuming that 1 billion ton emission actually happens and gets traded. So 2% market share of the broking business will be worth 75 crores. 2%. Now these are numbers which I have worked out, and I have verified the numbers from experts also. 2% market share of the carbon market traded in India will be at least, and that also at a price of 10 euro or 15 euro or 20 euro. We are not talking about 80 or 100 euro. And then government is talking about net zero by 2070. Net zero means all emissions from the economy will actually be, carbon emissions from the economy will actually become zero. Right? So this is the bill which has actually been put up in the parliament. It had actually last year passed one parliament house, but then suddenly there was some hesitation from the corporate side that why you want to declare. But government has already declared this at COP26, so government has to adhere to this. You cannot go back. There might be delay in terms of internal implementation, but government has said by 2045 starting, we will ensure that we actually start zeroing down on the coal capacity. So coal capacity from 2045 onwards will actually start depleting in such a way that by 2070 there will not be any single coal plant operating in the country and creating pollution. Then digitization and phygital economy. So we all have seen about UPI. We discussed the numbers in the initial part. 40-45 billion transactions are happening on a digital basis every day actually. Then we have we have ONDC, which is supporting all the MSME companies. We have Aadhaar, we have Aadhaar, which is actually been the base for most of the transactions. And then ONDC is something which government has started to all support all the MSMEs. So this platform has been created, Aadhaar, then DigiLocker, ONDC has been created by Nandan Nilenkani. He has been the chairperson of UPI. And then all the penetration of data, you would have seen direct benefit transfer. The percentages, there was olden days there was a thought process that out of every 100 rupees, only 15 rupee reaches the people at the ground level. Now with the direct benefit transfer, everything people are getting in hand, right? And so many number of accounts have been opened, so many people have actually gone online. And because of mobile penetration, it doesn't cost you. You have SMS, you have internet connectivity available even in villages. So I think things are becoming very, very important for India. Then net zero goals, carbon market starting in. So these are all important milestones for India from the point of view of becoming a Viksit Bharat as a country. Now I have just copied this from, I think this was copied from Wikipedia, but just look at the numbers in terms of share of market for China. Products, pottery 64%, light fixtures 67.4%, baby carriage, toys 59% of the global market. Can't we penetrate 10%, 20% of this market? Where do we stand? Even in toys we can't compete. And then you look at heating and lighting fixtures 55%. You look at something like household type equipments 42.7%, clothing. China's textile exports are $300 billion. We are 10% of that. And Bangladesh is bigger than us. I mean, obviously last few months they are facing trouble in terms of exports. Bangladesh is bigger than us in terms of textile exports. So government has actually kept a mission. How do you go from $32 billion to $100 billion? Let us at least test the figure of $100 billion in terms of textile exports. Anybody, on an average, if you are spending per person in a family, let us assume you spend 50,000 rupees per person in a family on, mobile phones, laptops, or, clothing. At least you are spending 25-30%. 12-15 हज़ार का कपड़ा तो कोई भी ले लेता है. एक कई शादी का सूट भी ले लो आप तो 15-20 हज़ार रुपये खर्चा हो जाता है. So you calculate 20,000 rupees into even just 50 crore people. What is the amount of money? And we are talking about 20,000 rupees is only less than, it's $250 only. In US, you get one gene for $250. So you can imagine the kind of money if you take US population or per capita income at $65,000 and assume that they would be spending $800,000 on renting a house. This is the typical rents in the US. So $12,000 वहाँ गया, food and other thing. And what is the most important thing that they spend upon is mobile and clothing. They want to look nice. They want to spend on expensive clothes. So you can imagine out of $75,000, they want to spend, say they will pay 30% tax, so $50,000 remain with them. Out of $50,000, even if they want to spend $10,000 on a per capita per person basis, in terms of clothing, $10,000 is 8.5 lakh crores, 8.5 lakh rupees. You can imagine the kind of size of market, 8.5 lakh per person into 35 crore population in the US. What can be the amount of textile consumption, how much market we can capture. And we have everything, we have cotton with us, we need to make that cotton organic, right? They love people. I have seen people in Mumbai, when I used to be staying in Mumbai for many number of years, the other people pay 800,000 rupees for 1 kg of organic tomatoes. 800,000 rupees for 1 kg of organic tomatoes. And here we are buying tomatoes at 60, 70, 80 rupees, right? 100 rupees maximum. People are willing to pay that kind of pricing for. And here I told you about bamboo, right? One big plate, you see cover plate, which you put it on, say, any utensil or all, this big size, round one. What is the price of that plate in Europe? It will not be less than 15,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees. People are willing to pay $200 to $50 for that because it is organic. It is made from bamboo. Here, the unfortunate scenario is that यहाँ तो अगरबत्ती नहीं लगा है, but we pray every day, right? Morning, evening, at least. Most of the Indians pray every day, morning, evening. दो अगरबत्ती तो लगाते हैं हम लोग. एक लगाने का हमारे यहाँ रिवाज नहीं है, 2 अगरबत्ती तो लगाते ही हैं. 4 अगरबत्तीज in a day. How many families? We are importing 2,500 tons per day of bamboo sticks from China and Vietnam. That is the kind of tragedy we are living into, and we have our bamboo production or area under bamboo plantation is 250% of China. China is already 2.5 lakh crore economy in bamboo. And when I make the vision statement and it is appreciated by Niti Aayog, they appreciate the fact that just by sheer numbers, plantation of bamboo area under bamboo plantation in India is 2.5 times that of China. So if it is 2 lakh crores, 2.5 times that is 5 lakh crores. So when I say 5 to 10 lakh crore economy getting missed out, is it is nobody, you can't even be doubting that particular economy. It's a question of how the raw material is available. You need to ensure that raw material is available. Today we are importing 255 million tons of coal from various parts of the world. Our consumption of coal is 1200. 1000 tons is internal consumption, 200 to 50 tons is we are importing from, paying 5,000 rupees a ton. Because the calorific value of the coal is 5,000 kilocalories per kg. Bamboo has the same calorific value. And instead of 2,55,000 tons, you multiply by 5,000, what is the kind of money? We are importing coke, which has very high calorific value, which goes into heating of steam turbines and steel manufacturing and all. We are importing coke worth 1,75,000 crores from Australia and Zimbabwe and other countries. But what is the best? When you actually burn bamboo, what comes out is biochar. Biochar is the best form of coke. And we are not even producing 1 ton of biochar in the country today. So imagine what can Viksit Bharat actually mean when all these areas and things actually get developed. So emerging scenario is, high income developing country, IoT more happening, Industry 4, people are already talking about Industry 5. Mobile exports is something which is happening in a big way from India. Chip designing, as we are talking about semiconductors and all. The semiconductor business today is globally is around 40 billion dollars. So imagine if India can capture 15-20% market share of semiconductor business in the next 10 years, then we have 200, almost what, we have 20% market share is $125 billion. $125 billion at 80-85 rupees is something like 10 lakh crores worth of semiconductor market that will actually happen in the country. And then, as I said, global capability centers. So they're talking about all global bigger companies starting capability centers in India, which are like 100% owned by them, or it is as part of their divisions. And those capability centers will be outsourced in terms of doing accounting work, doing all management operations, because they want to save on cost. One side is Mr. Trump wants more manufacturing and more jobs in the US, but companies are actually on the other side. They want to reduce their costs, right? So they will probably come out with more GCCs, global capability centers, and you would have seen some of the data centers going for seriously large expansion in India. Why? Because all these GCCs will be housed out of data centers. And then emergence of skilled labor. Skilling is very, very important for India. There is a concept called as design thinking. You must have heard, most of you would have heard about the concept called design thinking. Design thinking has to really go in our brain. We need to be really sharp in terms of how we can create something, out of peanuts. And that's the kind of level of knowledge acquisition that should actually happen in the country. And it is 100% possible. We are very good in terms of theory, but we are lacking in terms of practicals. And then per capita income increasing from $2,500 to, so even at $10,000, we'll be 4 times, we are already a $16 trillion economy. So when we move towards Viksit Bharat of 27 or $30 trillion, if you are able to go to $10,000 on a per capita, if you remember Prime Minister's statement, he said, I want my farmer income to be doubled in the next 4 to 5 years. So 50-55 lakh crores of agriculture economy, he's already talking about doubling farmer income to 1 lakh crore or 1 crore, right? He's already talking about those numbers. And if you see some of the recent statements, he said we will be very soon, touching $5 trillion because of various developments that are happening in the country. He must be getting data from all his ministers. Mobile what is going to happen in the next 2 years, what is going to happen in this particular sector. Defense government has started giving huge contracts indigenously. Bharat Force today is one of the largest manufacturer of some kind of rifles in the world. One of the largest manufacturers. Defense today, we are sitting in Pune, we are sitting in Pimpri-Chinchwad, which is so close to Chakan. There is a separate defense cluster in Chakan. I have been to 2 companies, everything is closed. We are not even taken inside we have gone for a meeting, we are not even taken inside. They have kept a meeting room outside. They will give you everything, they will give you nashta, they will give you chai, but they don't even allow you to peep inside, ki andar kya chal raha hai. There is a separate cluster of defense, which is there in Chakan. And 108 items 2 years before, suddenly government moved from China and said, okay, this has to be done indigenously. You see some of the defense companies' order books and the kind of work they are doing, it is phenomenal. I was part of 2 committees at Cochin Shipyard. I was part of the fuel cell committee. We submitted a report to government in terms of how fuel cell economy should emerge. And then I was also part of the green battery committees. Then I was part of the green batteries committees at CII level, national level. So, these are the kind of areas which needs to be addressed by India in a much bigger way. If you are able, people need to learn what is the battery. Battery is a mixture of mechanical, chemical, chemistry, electronics, computer science, everything. So 6 or 7 verticals need to really work upon when actually the battery starts working. And this is the kind of knowledge that is required. We are talking about 10%, 20%, penetration of mobility, electric mobility, or 30% of new sales or 10% of overall mobility penetration. At 10% electric mobility penetration, we require 750 gigawatt hour of batteries Today, every cell in the battery, you would have seen everyday battery, right? In your childhood, and you would have played around with the battery. The round, the black rod which is inside the cell, inside the battery, is actually the cell. Electrons pass from one part to the other part in the cell, that actually generates the energy. And that is why when you put the battery inside a mobile phone or or your torch or whatever, suddenly the light comes on. Passage of electrons happen, and that cell, not a single cell today is manufactured in India. Not a single cell. There are plants which are coming up. Recently, Reliance has got another 10 gigawatt. So 50-60 gigawatt hour of plants will come up. But as of today, nothing. We have 10 lakh electric vehicles sold last year, 6.5 lakh two-wheelers, okay, passenger cars, everything. All the batteries in those vehicles is made by companies who are there in India, only doing battery packing. Packing is only the covering part and putting battery management system, whatever, vehicle control unit or whatever. But the central cell is all coming from China and Korea. How much dependency are you going to have? So when you talk about Viksit Bharat, all these things need to be eliminated. Why is government pushing so much about hydrogen? They're talking about 5 million metric tons of production of green hydrogen by 2030. I told you about coal, right? Calorific value of 5,000 kilocalories per kg, best quality Indonesian coal. What is the calorific value of hydrogen? Has anybody studied? It is 33,300 kilocalories per kg. It is 3 times more than diesel calorific value and 6.5 times more than coal. What are the two largest sources of energy on the earth today? One is your water, second is your sun. Water is H2O and sun is H2He, helium. Are we able to use it? No, we are not able to use it. Largest carrier of energy in the world today is hydrogen. We are not able to utilize the energy. Hydrogen can't be separated, कि ऐसा hydrogen निकाल के आपको 5 किलो hydrogen दे दिया, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. It needs to be embedded with something, H2SO4, sulfuric acid, right? Methane, CH4, ammonia, NH3. Learn about science. As an accountant, the biggest advantage for you is that if you learn more about science, boss, your competitor you will throw out in minutes. I can talk about energy transition, all these hydrogen areas for hours together. Why? I have studied it, boss. I have put in hard work. Baal safed ho gaye. I have learned it in the last 5-6 years, and seeing my work on sustainability. 15 days before, I was awarded a doctorate, honorary doctorate by Dunster Business School in Zug, Switzerland. They have given me honorary doctorate. Why? Because of the effort that I put in for last 5-6 years in terms of sustainability. Nothing comes free. No lunch is free in life. Please understand, no lunch is free. Somebody is taking you out for lunch, that obviously means he is expecting something from you. So these are all important areas in R&D estimates. You look at World Intellectual Property Organization. They're talking about what? India's patents have increased to 38,000. But look at the patents filed by China. 14-15 lakh patents. We are not even 2% of China, 2.5% of China. That's why when I say 0.6% of GDP, and this percentage of R&D on GDP is remaining constant. See, I am not anybody if he feels here that I am demeaning India. I am not. I am only putting facts. Because we have to look at Viksit Bharat as an area of growth in the future. Obviously, we want India. I want, my next generation, my daughter to be living in an area where everybody is so prosperous. It will, you all, some of you might not be married, some of you who are married and have children, you'll all want your next generation to be really happy and, living in a prosperous country like India, developed country like India, not still developing. So this is something which is so important for India. So look at the patents, China 14 lakh, USA 2 lakh 50. Where does even country like US stand? They are not even 15% of what China in terms of the patents. Japan 2 lakh 18,000, Republic of Korea 1 lakh. Korea is someone, not We are all aware North Korea nothing happens. That king keeps moving around and firing people. And at least South Korea there is a significant amount of work that is happening. Hyundai and all come from South Korea, right? Hitachi, Hyundai, all they come from South Korea. Hitachi, I think, is Japan. But Hyundai and other companies have come from South Korea. And they captured large. Samsung is from South Korea. So some of the largest mobile companies globally are Koreans, right? Where they have reached, they are such a small thing. I mean, they probably don't even have, in India, my hometown Nagpur, 40,000 engineers pass out every year. What are we doing? USA doesn't even have, India there are 20 lakh engineers who pass out every year. USA doesn't even have more than 50-60,000 engineers. In 70,000 new engineers, they are able to create so much of GDP. And with 20 lakh engineers, we are not able to create. I mean, there is a serious mindset change that is required in the country. Don't be, just be happy with what you have. Life is all about struggle, and unless you struggle in terms of inventing something new all the time, how will you, it's not necessary that somebody who is engineer should only be doing research. Why an accountant can't do research? पढ़ना पड़ेगा ना थोड़ा सा, पढ़ो. Have some weird idea. Put it on paper, go to an engineer, go to a scientist and say, this is what I have worked on. Can we create something out of this? When I meet people in the engineering colleges, when I used to be working with a company called, Bellrise Industries, I was group head corporate strategy. I was invited in I don't want to name, but I was invited in a college here in Pimpri-Chinchwad. They invited me to speak on patents and copyrights. So it was a new topic. I said, okay, let me study, and I was given 10 days time to prepare. So I prepared, and that is how I know these figures by heart, 0.6, 0.7% of GDP. So I asked one of the professors that how many patents you have. He is a PhD from IIT Mumbai, and he is a professor in one of the colleges. He has 85 patents in his name. I said, how many are commercialized? 0. What is the use of me having a patent if it is not commercialized? I mean, किसको दिखाने है पेटेंट? सिर्फ तुम्हारा प्रोफेसर ही आगे चलता रहे. I am not saying they are not contributing, but the question is, important parameter is that how do you look at your patent getting commercialized? When I did a presentation on bamboo industry vision 2030 at Mumbai University, the chief guest was Dr. J.B. Joshi. He is a chancellor at ICT, which is old UDCT in Mumbai, University Department of Chemical Technology, known as now ICT, Institute of Chemical Technology. It's a university now, and he is a chancellor. Person at 76 years of age, at that age still has the enthusiasm to come and be a keynote speaker in a conference, presented for 45 minutes, and he said, I have only 20 patents in my life, and all 20 patents are commercialized. He said, I don't take the patent in my name if I am not sure that it cannot be commercialized. So we need to get into the habit of creating patents, and not only creating patents, but also at the same time commercializing those patents. The value lies in commercialization. Patent should be useful to people like us, right? It should be useful to common man. Mobile is useful to common man, right? Today 6,000 का भी मोबाइल मिलता है, 7,000 का भी मिलता है, 4,000 का भी मिलता है. कम से कम बात तो कर सकते हैं. At least the communication is there. Otherwise, when and all this, this comes with a very innovative thought process. If you remember what Dhirubhai said when communication, which is under Anil Ambani, started those days. The first concept thought process was that the phone call should be cheaper than a postcard. And that is why they spent significant amount of money doing R&D to ensure that the cost actually goes down. It should be cheaper. That those days postcard used to be what, 25 paisa, 30 paisa, right? So the phone call should be cheaper than a postcard. Then only people will start using, otherwise they will write. If the phone call is going to be 2 rupees per call and postcard is at 25 paisa, people will put, अरे ठीक है यार, 4 दिन में मिलेगा ना postcard, क्या जल्दी है? So look at India, look at all these things. And economic data, as I said, FDI as a percentage is needs to improve significantly. And then MSMEs contribute today 90% as producers, but in terms of value, they are at 40%. China, Korea and Germany are at 70-75%. So MSME is contributing to the economies in all these countries significantly higher. And we are expecting India economy should be for 50% of China and 18% of USA on a per capita basis. Global supply chain China plus one strategy will support Indian domestic production and exports. Skilling improvement is the biggest need for India, and that skilling has to come from universities. And in the process, universities have to actually get their skills up in terms of doing the right R&D and converting that right R&D into education which can be given back to the next generation. Either colleges, or they should go and do consulting with colleges, with corporates, and pass on the knowledge. Obviously they should get paid for it, because everybody needs good monetary income to survive. So how much time we have, Sagar? Another 15 minutes? Yeah. And then defense indigenization, as I talked about. And then another bigger area is, from an India perspective, is cost of funding, right? Even the best of the companies today, AAA plus rated companies, right? Rating is a very important criteria in India. What are you rating? My rating is BB minus. So, only investment grade, okay, you need to improve. So Reliance is AAA plus, Tata, most of the companies will be AAA plus, right? So that needs to improve. So cost of funding, even for a company like Reliance, will be 6.5-7% today, right? Whatever is the money market income, money market rate, maybe I take another 50, 60, 70 basis points, and that is the cost of funding that which most of the bigger companies would be borrowing. So when you talk about net interest income for banks, NII, net interest income, it is in the range of 2 to 2.5, 3%. If you look at, so they'll probably give it to bigger companies at 1% margin. They will try to give it to MSMEs at 12%, 13%, 9%, 10%, unless the sector falls under priority sector. If it is priority sector like agri, the funding to the farmers happens at 7-8%. And then there are some other sectors which are priority sectors, and that is how the NII actually comes out for bank. So net interest income for bank, my cost of borrowing is say 7%, my net interest income is 9.5%. So my net lending rate is 9.5%, and then my net interest income is 2.5. That is the differential. So as I said, look at we are a $4 trillion at peak. Our market capitalization was $5 trillion, but by just 2.5 lakh crore worth of FII sales, the market has corrected by 25-30%. This is only in large caps. As far as mid caps are concerned, the sell off is 60, 70, 80% also. Some of the companies have fallen as low as 70% also. I am not saying the companies are bad. Companies are still doing well. The numbers are really good. But just because of the sell off, the market capitalization has fallen. So look at imagine a scenario where $30 billion can impact $5 trillion valuation, and it is coming down below 4 trillion now. So the impact is 10x. And then, as I said, services, manufacturing, agriculture. So, the mix needs to change. Today, services sector is on a much higher side. So you can imagine a scenario whereby 2047, $27 trillion, 40% will come from manufacturing, 40% will come from services, and maybe 20% will come from agriculture. So at $27 trillion, 20% is $5.4 trillion. $5.4 trillion will come from agri. That's the kind of potential as far as agriculture is concerned. From a 50 lakh crore economy to $5.5 trillion is 4 lakh crores, 8 times. Your farmers can actually become richer by 8 times. So what is the US market capitalization? US market capitalization to GDP ratio is almost 1:1. If we are able to really innovate and go to the next level, when we actually become a $27 trillion economy, our market capitalization should be at least 1.2 times or 1.25 times that of the GDP. So our market capitalization should be $32-33 trillion. So today it is 4. So there is in next 25 years 800% appreciation possible in the market capitalization, and this 8% is 8 times is in large caps. So you can imagine if mid caps start doing well and they create consistent growth, the growth in mid caps will be at least 25 times, or 15 times, or 18 times, or 20 times. So look at the opportunity in terms of growth that is possible from capital market perspective, because the amount of money required for India from an energy transition perspective is almost $10 trillion. So if you divide that $10 trillion by 30 years or 35 years, you require every year $35 billion of money. $35 billion is 3 lakh, 4 lakh crores worth of money every year required from an energy transition perspective. So that is the kind of money we require. And as I said, if you go to Singapore and take a housing loan, what is the rate of interest? Recently, US interest rates have increased. They are at 5% now. Old days, US interest rates were 1.5%. So you get a housing loan at 2% in Singapore, at 2% and that also 30-year housing loan. Here in India, the housing rate is not less than 8 or 9 or 10%, right? The average cost of borrowing for companies is 8.5%, 9%. In most of these developed countries, the interest rate scenario is so low. वो 5% जो difference है ना between say 9% to 3% or 4%, that makes significant difference in terms of your business model. Because that 5% saving is 5% addition to your PBT. Because your EBITDA is all your operating cost. Below EBITDA is your interest and depreciation. So if you are saving 5% in that interest cost, you are actually saving 55% of your interest cost. Because from 9 to 4 is almost a 55% savings in your interest cost, right? That is the kind of scenario actually it should emerge from a developing country or developed country perspective for India. So our banking system needs to improve. Fortunately, in the last 4 or 5 years, our banking system has improved significantly. From all those 2014-15, Nirav Modi, all this Vijay Mallya, all those NPAs and problems that were there. This year, March 24, banking system profitability has crossed 1 lakh crore. So imagine a scenario when the economy becomes $27 trillion, banking sector profitability will not be less than 12 to 15 lakh crores. And it is time for, you see USA, so many banks are collapsing just because they don't have a proper credit rating. Unsecured loans they are distributing. US is a capitalist economy, right? They are driven more by consumption. We are a savings economy. We save 24% of the money that we earn. If you are earning 100 rupees, average 20-25 rupees will go in taxes. Out of 75 rupees, 24% is what is our savings rate. We might be spending that 50% of our income. But we spend anything, we save anything between 20 to 24%. That's the kind of saving rate we have. So with growth in economy, deposit base will also increase, but money will also shift from debt side to capital markets mode, which we have seen in the last 2 years. Like every Tom, Dick and Harry was actually trading in the capital market, sitting at home, doing work from home. And then that is why this collapse has actually happened, because people were just trading and putting money into mutual funds. So energy transition we discussed, and then general, large expected improvement in education. 45% of the students are not proficient in reading. This is the statement from Niti Aayog. Students don't even know how to read, right? I am not an MBA from a very high class institution, but I hope you like the way I talk, right? It's the kind of habit, it's the kind of ability that one has to develop, right? I today talk at various platforms. I am a speaker on IITs. I was 2 years, I was chairman of Entrepreneurship Cell Policy Committee at IIT Madras for 2 years consecutively. Last 2 years, I am judging all the startup competitions at IIT Bombay. This is the ability one has to develop in terms of how do you put yourself across people. 12th, I will be addressing an event and moderating an event invited by Government of Kerala and invited by Additional Chief Secretary Power at Kochi. 11th night I will be going there. So this is the kind of abilities one needs to develop in terms of how you look at, why should Niti Aayog entertain my presentation in terms of bamboo industry? Why should they entertain? If there is no quality, there are so many people who are working in bamboo sectors, right?
इतना बड़ा बड़ा बात करते हैं. I said, you show me the raw material. They are not able to answer. Industry can become larger, right? Provided you have a sizable quantity of raw material being available. India's output in terms of bamboo is 0.75 tons per acre. China is already 20 tons per acre. What are we talking about? I mean, what should we boast about? There is nothing to boast about as far as this particular industry is concerned. And then I am part of 3-4 groups, on bamboo industry. People just keep fighting. Tu bada ke main bada. But the reality is that, boss, look at the raw material. Is the raw material available? We are importing coal from Indonesia, high quality calorific value coal at 5,000 rupees. Similar calorific value is available from bamboo. If you do excessively large production in bamboo, can't you sell the same bamboo at 3,500 rupees a ton? Because your cost of production is lower. Why will people not buy that bamboo instead of importing from Indonesia? Same calorific value. I mean, there's a business logic, right? So these are all issues and problems, and governance is a one big area which India needs to really improve upon. As far as India is concerned, there are 5,500 listed companies. But in terms of governance, we are still poor. Independent directors are independent directors for the namesake. I have interacted with so many companies, so many directors. They have no powers. Because promoters control anything between 30% to 75% shareholding in most of the companies. And independent directors really don't have any power to say anything. They just come for the board meetings, be part of few committee meetings, remuneration committee, audit committee, and do some, but a business of 1,000, 2,000 crores cannot be checked even if you are meeting once a month. It's very difficult. So governance needs to improve significantly. There is something known as, which Indian companies are, scratching each other's back. Directors are scratching each other's back. There is one concept known as board evaluation, which is compulsory for all listed companies. And all companies where the paid up capital, all limited companies where the paid up capital is more than 25 crores. It is compulsory because you need to report that to bank. And suppose two of us are on the board of the same company, I scratch your back and you scratch my back. The questionnaire is so developed that, okay, everything is fine and hunky-dory. How many people really understand governance part of it? What needs to be done? How many people really understand the risk management part of it? How many people really now understand BRSR, ESG guidelines which have been made compulsory for top 1,000 companies? Do you understand? It's a 35-page document. With 35 pages, you need at least 3,500 pages of supporting documents. You cannot just publish a non-financial BRSR report. Otherwise, something like Shell, which has been caught in Europe doing greenwashing, you will also get someday caught in greenwashing. And the repercussions of legal problems, if you are communicating wrong to shareholders and stakeholders, is so high that tomorrow with one mistake the company can get wiped out. We have seen what happened in Tuticorin, Vedanta. All the drainage was going to river, getting river polluted with sulfuric acid. So many people in that area has been infected with cancer. The plant is closed today, 20,000 crore worth of investment. It's not getting reopened. So be serious about ESG, environment, social side. What are you paying your employees? Are you paying them fair salaries as per the grades, as per the work that they're doing? It should not happen that, typically in a company, if there is a grade, say for AVP, Associate Vice President, the salary difference should not be more than few lakh rupees. If one AVP is getting 60 lakh and another AVP is getting 20 lakh, will it be justified? So you need to be very careful, and all your buyers in Europe and all are watching this. Please mind your work. People are very smart. People know everything. Europeans, overseas buyers are very, very smart. OEMs have given email IDs on their website saying, if there is any discrimination in any of my supply chain companies, please complain here. One mistake, one complaint can take away 5-10% of your business. Don't think that world is not watching you. So, governance, now BRSR, now as I told you CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, and the fourth part, most important part is AIML. Artificial Intelligence, Machine Learning, how it is going to impact your business. How many directors are very seriously trying to understand and learn about all this. Today, India has 5,500 companies, right? Listed companies. And then every private company also, there are guidelines in terms of independent directors. So let us assume we have something like 40,000 directors. If you look at a $27 trillion economy, we'll at least require 5 lakh directors. Who's going to be training them? More importantly, knowledge acquisition in terms of what is actually required for you to be an independent director. If I am an independent director in a large company of 2,000 crore turnover, and directors are reasonably well taken care of, because if people get paid well, then they generally keep quiet. But the fact is, if I'm earning 15-20 lakh rupees from one company, I was CEO in a company, I retired from there, and I'm director in 5 companies, I'm still at this age, retirement age, I'm earning 75 lakh to a crore rupee, right? Which was probably my peak salary, or 80% of my peak salary. In that scenario, what is efficiently I am able to contribute? Ensure that stakeholder money is safe. Despite all the, all the independent directors, Krishna Palepu being on the board, Vinod Dham being on the board, still Satyam collapsed, right? It is big heart on the part of the government to ask Mahindra to take over Satyam. You can imagine the kind of fiasco it would have created about India's IT industry if government would not have supported at that time. I used to be part of a company called Aventus there in Mumbai. One day we got an email from the CEO that we have been mandated to advise government for Satyam takeover by Tech Mahindra. I got an email from all, everybody got an email. Aventus was the advisor to Government of India or Tech Mahindra in terms of acquisition of this particular company, and said from tomorrow onwards, this is under watch list. You cannot trade nobody can trade in the shares. We got an email from the CEO. That time I was heading the capital market division at Aventus, so we got an email. So look at the kind of governance one needs to follow. So these are all challenges. And see Niti Aayog report, which says that 60% of the population is going to stay in cities in the next 10 to 12 years. How much we are going to pressurize our cities for water, electricity, construction, high-rise buildings? 60% of the population is going to stay in cities in the next 10 years. And then in general, what is required is policy consistency. Electricity is one big area of pain for the India. Despite the fact that Electricity Act has been formulated in 2003, then there are rules and regulations which have been there in since in 2006-7 or 2014 regulations have come. Despite the fact that it's a trouble sector actually, and then there are 23,665 central compliances. These are figures from Niti Aayog. I have no expertise to find out these figures from anywhere. And there are 1893 filings to be done. You can imagine the kind of I was in discussion with a lawyer in Mumbai, and one day we were discussing, and I just casually asked him, are you aware how many compliances are there in Maharashtra? How many laws? He said, my team has done the best work. We dug out so many things. He told me a number of 1,700 laws and regulations to be complied with in Maharashtra. So this number of 23,000 is not wrong. If Maharashtra is 1,800 regulations and laws to be complied on an all India basis, 23,000 is peanuts. We have 23 states, right? So somewhere the compliances should actually go down. And capital market currently $4 trillion, economy is also $4 trillion. At $27 trillion economy, we could be 1.3 times, that is $35 trillion in terms of market cap. So $4 trillion to $35 trillion is 9 times. That is a possibility. You can imagine how much of your wealth can actually grow. And then what are the opportunities for CMS? Strategic cost-based advisory, project-based and transaction-based. And as we discussed in the first part, even pharma companies becoming larger and larger, so cost audit and cost-based advisory, how you can probably, I think activity-based costing is one of the best areas for CMS to really look after and implement. And then business planning outsource services. So, and then identification of best low-cost technologies. See, technology is going to be a pain point, because if you look at the Paris Agreement, what was promised is $100 billion of money and technology. Nor technology has come to India, nor money has come to India. So identification of right technology, so you can actually doing research in your client's area, see what is best is possible, how you can advise him, show him some low cost technology, show him some sources, and these are all could be, because ultimately low cost is a ultimately game. But sustainability is a strategic issue. You need to invest in sustainability, and the benefits will come over 8 to 10 years. You cannot expect sustainability benefits to come immediately in 3, 4, 5 years, because you are transitioning from, say, coal to hydrogen or coke to hydrogen. Power has got stabilized. Power earlier renewable energy cost was 17, 18 rupees. Now it has stabilized to 3, 3.5, 4 rupees, depending on the size of the business. Power side it has happened well, but other areas it will take another 7, 8, 10 years to really stabilize. Skilling and training is another bigger area. So I think this is most important parameter, and then I think we are already at 8:33. So I think I've probably taken almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours. So anybody has any questions for another 10 minutes, we can discuss and then close. I hope I am able to do justice to your time, and yeah. That's why they are being paid well now. If our average worker payout is 15-20,000 rupees and their worker payout is 2 lakh rupees, if you are saying it is 25%, if you are really able to produce in terms of efficiency, we should be paid at 70-80,000 rupees, right? But we are getting only paid 15-20,000 rupees. Why? Because efficiency is lower. People find excuses not to do work. And if you go to Chakan and find out people who are, there, but people who come from Bihar and UP, you will always go and see they are willing to work for 1.5 shifts. They are willing to work for 12 hours. Because they have nothing to do here, right? All their families are in villages. So they are willing to work for 12 hours and earn that extra money and send money home. Why people in Maharashtra are not able to really do it? Why? It's a mindset issue. And that's why if you see some of the statements done by Mr. Subramaniam, L&T CEO, he said we should be working 90 hours. Narayan Murthy said 70 hours. And then it all become fiasco, and so much of drama has happened after that. But even if you take average 10 hours on a daily basis and 6 hours for 6 days for manufacturing and at least 5 days for services. So even that 50 hours happens or 60 hours happen, I think it's a significant improvement in terms of the current working scenario. Yeah. Yeah. Probably it was a political scenario. Otherwise, what? Today Maharashtra contributes 15% of GDP, right? But it's good that we have a very stable government with 230 seats out of 288. In support of the government. But in terms of the challenges, Maharashtra, one is power cost, and second is land prices. The two significant challenges for Maharashtra. People are very happy to be in Maharashtra, but people are going somewhere else because of two important issues like power cost and land cost. Otherwise, nobody will find state better than Maharashtra. That's why people are, you see Tamil Nadu, one of the highest FDI after Maharashtra is Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. And now semiconductor plant has been put up by Tata in Assam. If you see in the recent news. Why is Tata going to Assam and not coming to Maharashtra? Tata headquarters is in Maharashtra. Majority of the Tata plants are here. Yeah, any other questions? All the younger boys, any questions? No? You have no questions. You understood perfectly Viksit Bharat. So Viksit Bharat will happen now. Huh? Yeah? Yeah. Mhm. See, I come from Nagpur. Where is the city, other than infrastructure, where is the city developed? There is no industrialization. There is very, very minimum industrialization. I mean, Nagpur in terms of industry should be 5% of Pune. Hmm. See, so many. Yeah. Hmm. I mean, you study the each-opal model of ITC, na? Each-opal is the same model, na? They will give you seeds, they will give you money in advance, they will support you, but they will expect the output to be sold to ITC. Why will they support it? It's their business, right? So these kind of models need to get developed. Whether it is bamboo, whether it is any other, government, Prime Minister so much has been talking about millets, right? Millets has the best energy food. He's been talking about it. But you need to develop a model. Either banking system should come forward or corporate should come forward. And because corporates have larger balance sheet, they'll always need to protect their shareholder interests. So they'll always need their margins. When I go to conferences and talk, people should not worry about 20% return on equity for strategic investments like sustainability. People start shouting on me because everybody wants return as of yesterday. How can it happen? We have been using coal and all other power sector energy consumption for last 75 years after independence. Suddenly you want to change and you want to still have a 20% return on equity. Then your hydrogen pricing will be 400 rupees a kg. It will not be 150 rupees a kg. How can it happen? It's a transition. Transition is a painful area. It's highly painful. And today, the most worrying factor for India is 83% of the crude that we import, crude we consume is imported. So we are so much dependent on Middle East and Russia and everybody. Energy. Can we do this station without energy? No, not possible. So energy requirement is the biggest thing. Nothing gets transformed from one shape to another shape without energy. Iron ore to steel or finished steel is energy. So what you require as a base of conversion is, again, everything is energy. Whether it is electrical energy, whether it is oil energy, or whether it is any kind of energy. Huh. Then Enron happens, right? Something has gone positive, that's good. But what should have happened 15 years before or 20 years before is not now happening. So what is the loss to the exchequer? So much of money has been invested, right? Then what is the loss of revenue in terms of taxes, in terms of indirect taxes, direct taxes? So much of loss of revenues happened. What in terms of the next level of Viksit Bharat, people should start understanding the efficiency of capital. If you do not understand efficiency of capital and do not earn 15-20% consistently, you earn 10%, doesn't matter, but earn that consistently. It should not happen that I am investing today and 10 years there is no return. Then what is, it's a sunk cost, right? The basic principle we learn in costing is sunk cost. It's a sunk cost. Dabol was a sunk cost. Ratnagiri Power was a sunk cost for 10-15 years. What is the use? 1,000 rupees invested per month for 65 years in PPF at the highest PPF rate of 12% becomes a crore rupee. Are you aware? 1,000 rupees a month for 65 years at 12% tax-free return, because EPF is tax-free. It becomes 1 crore rupee. So imagine investment of 50,000 crores or 1 lakh crores of Konkan Power, Ratnagiri Power, generating 20% return on equity. 50,000 crore investment, 20% equity is 10,000 crores. 10,000 crore equity, 20% ROE is 2,000 crores. 2,000 crores for last 15 years. What is the amount of loss? Compounding every year at 20%. Can you calculate the IRR? At least understand the financial numbers, sir. We are all finance guys. We know exactly how to calculate IRR, right? In the system. Are we telling? I was in one of my previous company, I literally had a fight with the chairman. So many years, so much of money was invested into research and development and creation of new products. Investment was 150 crores. And one day when it came to doing the agreement with somebody for inviting as a partner, the agreement was done at 150 crores. I said, you calculate 150 crores invested over 7 years, you add 20% return on equity every year. Today the value should be at least 300 crores. We should not do a deal below 300 crores. और सब मीटिंग में सब खड़े हो गए, सबके कान खड़े हो गए, ये क्या बोल रहा है? मैं बोला वही सही बोल रहा हूँ मैं तो. 20% ROE है ना, you are a listed company. Your shareholders want 20% return on equity. You add that ना. Okay, research है, you said 15%. But at 15% also it will become 250 crores. So why you are doing a deal at 150 crores when you should be doing a deal at 250 crore rupees? Efficiency of capital. We have a system of reasonably good financial planning, but what significantly needs to improve in India is the concept of financial planning. Don't allocate money from one project to another project. Let the money remain at the same project level. Money collected in coal cess at 50 rupees per ton or 40 rupees per ton or 100 rupees per ton becoming 400 rupees per ton in 4 years. If half that money goes to Ganga project, what is the use? It should go for renewable energy projects, na? Efficiency and efficacy and planning is something you can imagine. With all so many problems, we are at $4 trillion. If all these problems get corrected to a larger extent, what it can be the size of economy? Your children will thank you. Otherwise, they will curse you. They will curse me also because we are all part of the system, right? So, any more questions? Otherwise, we can close. Huh?